Yeah, welcome back to Realish Racing. We had a cracking first race there for the first round of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres. We saw Lee Howson win an epic race. It was comfortable in the end by the standards of that race, but it was only about 1.5 seconds ahead. And now we're going to go for race 2, where we have a reverse grid. So the top 12 have been reversed. So our winner Lee Howson is starting 12th, and Alex Odell of Scuderia Quilla Race is going to be our pole sitter. And I think from the amount of racing and great overtaking moves we saw there, this reverse grid is really going to serve us up a treat.
Yeah, Odell starts on the front row of the grid with April Dillon alongside Realish Racing and Bjorn Gouloumis alongside them on the second row of the grid. Here's the rest of them. Theo van der Brink lines up 14th with Eagle, Lambert, Heatley, Covey, Mason, Wallace, Davis, Marriott, Woolard, Walker, Pete Walker that is in 24th, William Walker in 25th, and Niall O'Connell, of course, the only DNF, lining up in 26th and last position on the grid. So here then is Alex Odell, a fairly unspectacular first race, but starting from pole position, this is his big chance then at this early stage in the season here very quickly, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Odell, he's won a few races in his Realish Racing career, and you never know the kind of races we've had. He might just be able to stay out of trouble and keep his nose clean, and everyone else can just crash into each other.
Certainly did. So let's see what is going to happen then here. The drivers are lining up on the grid as we get ready to go racing then for the second race of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres then. Race 2 out of 13 of our season is about to get underway. So Alex Odell lines up on pole position with April Dillon alongside then. The red lights do come on here, and for race 2 we're underway. It's a good start there from Dillon, not a bad launch there from Alex Odell from pole position. Keep an eye out as well in the mid-pack. All sorts of overtaking moves ready to go down towards the first corner. Looks like Sam Harani's on the inside as well in the mid-pack. And are they all going to make it through the first corner unscathed? Not quite, because that's Bjorn Gouloumis going off on the outside of that first corner. He's lost a bit of ground there. So here we go with Alex Odell still leading the way in towards the next series of corners. Then in second position it's April Dillon. Then closely follows is Arūnas Linkevicius then as they come through the next series of left-handers. But this is going to be the first opportunity as they come onto the back straight to find their way through. Look at the side-by-side action taking place in the mid-pack here. Here comes Patterson. He is down the inside and through ahead of Franklin Stegging then. And he's on a charge on his opening lap because he's now challenging Arūnas Linkevicius as they come down this back straight then. So is Linkevicius going to relinquish another position? Here is the teammate then of Patterson as well, of Mike Bell, who was trying to find his way past Stegging. Isn't quite able to do so. There's Bjorn Gouloumis up the inside as well of Dan Thorne into the left-hander, and he's through ahead of position then after that very difficult start to the race. All sorts of action taking place in the final series of corners as they come through the left-hander. Then Stegging then is on the outside and then the inside for the next series of corners, and he has still got Craig Patterson for company, who's trying to go the long way around the outside here. But as we come towards the end of lap 1 then, it's still Odell that leads from the front.
Yeah, we saw quite a lot of action in that first corner as we were predicting, but not too much carnage. And see Sam Harani there, seems like he's been through the walls already. Oh, nice little move down there from Stegging, but is he going to... Well, there you go, he's lost the place after having gained it straight away to Mike Bell, Craig Patterson there ahead of him. And Tom Bellingham looks like he's going to have a little go around the outside of Stegging. It's going to be really difficult to hold that line, and I think Stegging is going to maintain position. Meanwhile, he's going to worry now about James Price Harper as they all take to that little escape road there. Just fantastic action already.
There's Bellingham trying to go up the inside of Stegging then, doesn't quite able to find his way past, and that's going to allow Price Harper an opportunity to get onto the back of him there as well. A little bit wide to that corner allows Bjorn Gouloumis in turn, very close now behind Price Harper, too close up. Coming down this back straight we go then. Is anybody going to make a move coming into here then? Here comes Bellingham and here comes Price Harper trying to challenge Bellingham as well. They're going to go 3 wide. Bit of carbon fibre is knocked off the back of Bellingham's car as Bellingham is now up the inside and through. Alex Odell, meanwhile, the race leader, is wide as we can see Dillon now trying to go down the inside into the left-hander. Is the Swede going to be able to find the way past there? Not quite able to do so, but still out wide there is Alex Odell. He's got the inside line for the next corner. Arūnas Linkevicius is ready to try and take advantage and is now down the inside of April Dillon into the final series of corners. Nicely done there for Arūnas Linkevicius, timing that move to perfection and now getting through into second place.
Yeah, some pretty fantastic driving we've come to expect from Arūnas Linkevicius. He's already thinking about going for the lead there, but Alex Odell is a bit too far ahead and has the line covered. Mike Bell there is fending off Sam Harani, again trying to go down the inside, as we've seen that Franklin Stegging, contender for the race win in the first round, has been spun around and he's just lost a whole load of positions. And I'm afraid that might be... Oh, James Price Harper as well seems to have been in the wars. So all sorts of drama going on.
difficult there for Bryce Harper. Let's see what happens. Here he is on the inside of Franklin Stegging into the first corner. Oh, contact with Stegging sends him going round and gets tagged in turn with that as well. Oh, and he's just slowed down there to let Stegging back through. And, well, good sportsmanship there from James Bryce Harper, but either way, not what he'd have wanted to have been doing. Meanwhile, here then is Austin Oganowski, who of course started towards the mid-pack as Arunas Linkovacius now sends it down the inside for the race lead. So Linkovacius then comes through and takes over at the front of this race. So the Lithuanian driver is now through into the front, and here comes Alex Odell trying to defend, or trying to defend at least from April Dillon, whilst trying to attack against Linkovacius, then not able to find his way through as they come side by side still into the final series of corners with Dillon on the outside. Then here comes Craig Patterson, and Odell spins it round in the final series of corners and goes down the order, tumbling unfortunately towards the end of lap 3, and that is a real disappointment there for Alex Odell, especially Nick, given where he started.
Yeah, it's such a shame. When you start from the front reverse grid, maybe you think, okay, I'm going to just try and hold on to the lead as long as I can and see where I end up. And you might even end up winning it if you have a really good position, a really good race or a really good performance. But there, Alex Odell, just very, such a shame for him. As Craig Patterson now is in 3rd position, so we saw quite a lot of pace from him after his spin. So we could see maybe Craig Patterson here.
Yeah, certainly so. Let's see what is going to happen then over the course of this one. Here then is Tom Bellingham in 6th position for the Independables. Just in front of him then is Mike Bell, the number 95, who again started really strongly in that first race, and it's actually his teammate Craig Patterson who seems to have got the legs on him. So of course between race 1 and race 2 they might have been able to make a few setup changes over the course of this one, having learned what they have in that first race, and now being able to harness that setup towards the second race. But you can see here Mike Bell really trying to find his way through against Sam Harani. All over the rear wing he is, and he's now got the inside line into the left-hander as they come into the final series of corners. Harani tries to defend, isn't able to do so. The Priority 1 Motorsport driver now moves into P4.
Oh, we've got Tom Bellingham here, all waiting to pick up the pieces of what happens here. Sam Harani, we saw in the first race, was very aggressive, almost on a tightrope really in how he's driving. So it seems to give him a lot of speed, but also can make him make a few mistakes. So Tom Miller is just going to see what happens between him and Mike Bell, see if he can pick up 1 or 2 positions. Harani's just not giving this up, is he? He's really fired up. He really wants to come away from this round with at least 1 good result. He's definitely on for a podium here if he can keep on straight and narrow, but Mike Bell's going to be really hard to get past.
Let's see what's going to happen there. Bit of a slip and a slide there for Sam Harani. Just caught it on the curb on the outside, and that has allowed Tom Bellingham then of the Independables to come through to P5. Let's see what happens then. He's on the inside here. You can see the rear end steps down as he clips it over the curb, runs it a bit wide. That's all the opportunity that the number 33 needs to find his way up a position. Now here then is Campbell Wallace in the number 64. He has got the number 86 in front of him. That's Craig Woolard. They're squabbling for company as they come in towards the left-hander. This is quite far down the order as Wallace then goes down the inside and through into now 20th position. So the Scotsman ahead of the Briton. And it's now Kai Butsu ahead of Eiffel Power Motorsport. Speaking of further down the order, here we can see some more moves being made there. Number 43, that's Rob Covey, who's on the inside of Charlie Marriott. And also in the background there is number 101 of William Walker, who featured heavily in race 1 towards the end, sadly, for the wrong reasons, unfortunately. Meanwhile, here then is Pete Walker just in front. This is in 18th position. Doesn't really matter where you look because there's all sorts of action going on and lots of lockups by the looks of things in the latter half of the field.
Yeah, even though these are very low places, there's still a lot of pride and honour at stake. Dan Thorne here finding himself trying to get past Pete Walker. Oh, big breath of smoke from someone there. And Lee Harrison, our race winner, is now in 10th position. Thought he might have made a few more places up by now, but then again, there was a lot of carnage ahead and probably best just to keep out of it and not poke your nose in to the scene of an accident. But we can see he's now trying to make a move here on James Lambert. He knows he wants to get back up, maybe could even get into a podium position. I keep saying that, and then eventually, as soon as I say that, the driver's fall off the road. But Lee Harrison here not doing too bad a job. He's kept his nose in there, and it looks like Endless left-hander is going to make the position on Lambert.
Nicely done there then for Lee Harrison. Meanwhile, here's Arunas Linkovacius versus April Dillon coming down the back straight. This is the battle for the race lead, of course, as we know. Meanwhile, there is Lambert getting very close indeed with the number 51 of Theo van der Brink behind. Bjorn Golder also involved in the mix. This is the battle on the fringes then of the top 10. A little bit wide there for Theo van der Brink. That allows Lambert to come through on the inside. The number 91 is now into 11th position then, and Bjorn Gulde is the next driver that Theo van der Brink is going to have to worry about as they come through into the final series of corners then. So let's see what is going to happen then. Lap 6 out of 22 we are on, already getting over to start the 7th lap then here of race 2 of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres. Here comes Harani down the inside of Tom Bellingham. So Harani was a driver who was all at sea in the first race, Nick, and seems to have gotten his act together a bit in this second one though.
Yeah, it seems like he's got a very sensitive kind of setup. He does like to drive aggressively, and that can yield some very impressive lap times for him. Can also yield some quite spectacular mistakes. We've seen him go off the road a few times. But if he could just keep it in the groove, then he could just pump in lap after lap and reduce the deficit to those in front, and he can end up with a very good result. Here's Craig Patterson all over the back of Ruinous Lingovacious. He wants to get past the second position and challenge April Dillon for lead of Ruinous Lingovacious. It's far too good a driver just to hand that to Craig Patterson, and he's going to have to go around the long way. Let's see if he can get any kind of look into there. Ruinous Lingovacious already not weaving, but he's making a few defensive little moves. Craig Patterson's going to commit to the inside line, and I think he's got too much there on the Lithuanian, but he's not going to give up. He's going to try and go out the outside to keep position, but I think Craig Patterson, yeah, he's just done too much there on the Ruinous and into second position, and now he's going to have to worry about his Priority 1 Motorsport teammate.
Nicely done there for the Priority Motorsports guys, making good progress then in this race. Here's Bjorn Gulde's view of the battle for 10th position then in this one. Theo van der Brink on the right hand side of your picture, as you can see. There's Alex Odell also involved in the mix, who's making his way through the field. He's coming up like a dose of salts actually, because he was right down towards the back in the early stages of this one, owing to that spin that we saw from him a little bit earlier on. You can see a fast start there for Austin Ogonowski, the Canadian. Meanwhile, here comes James Bryce Harper and his fight back through the field down the inside of Bjorn Gulde. Can he find his way through? All looks like Franklin Steggink is also going to find his way back past at the inside. So now moving down into 14th position then is Bjorn Gulde. So, well, this is interesting because these are two drivers, Bryce Harper and Franklin Steggink here, Nick, who are kind of out of position really in this race. They shouldn't really be down this far, but they're fighting amongst drivers who were perhaps a little bit slower over the course of a lap here. Yeah, third of the way for the race, we really didn't expect to see these two drivers still here, but they've been in a few incidents, had a few little spins. Obviously, we saw them coming together, making contact, and James Bryce Harper was waiting very graciously for Steggink to get past him, having made that mistake, and it was just the wrong time to make that kind of move, because we saw it was plumbing down through the order. Here's nice little move there by Lee Mason, just out drags James Lambert. But yeah, these two, as you say, out of position, but it's not going to be easy to get past all these other cars busy having their own squabbles in front of them, or maybe they just might end up in some kind of incident and the path will be clear for them. All the while this is happening though, of course, it is costing Bryce Harper and Steggink a lot of time to the front runners, because they're just getting caught up, and that is costing them seconds over the course of the lap. So they really need to try and dispose of these drivers in front of them as soon as they possibly can. But Luke Mason, James Lambert, Theo van der Brink, Alex Odell, etc., not making it easy for Bryce Harper and Steggink at the moment. Here comes Odell with a lunge down the inside to the first corner. That was a late move. Is he going to be able to make it stick? No, there's contact into the first corner. Theo van der Brink with some carbon fibre shards coming off of his car. Now James Lambert is on the defensive against Luke Mason then for 8th position. So that position has changed between those two drivers, and now Mason is going to be the driver who's having to watch his mirrors, because here comes Theo van der Brink, the Dutchman. Oh, and a big slip and a slide there for Luke Mason on the inside of the circuit. That's not going to help him at all. He's going to drop right down the order. Keeps it on the straight and narrow, but down into 12th position as a result of that mistake there for Luke Mason. So that's exactly what we said about close pack racing earlier on. If you just make one mistake, it can cost you, what's that, 3 positions it's cost Luke Mason here. Yeah,
as I was saying, it was a gift to the fast drivers there, James Bryce Harper and Steggink, and just got onto the grass, just like, someone else getting on the grass there as well. Again, actually.
Contact between them. Steggink and Mason come to blows to the outside barrier, and out of the race goes Luke Mason. A heavy impact there with the catch fencing on the outside. There was contact between Steggink and Mason. It was coming to blows over the back straight that we saw. I really hope we get a replay actually of that. Here we are then on board. Here's Bjorn Gulde's view. So you can see Luke Mason squeezing Steggink there on the inside. His tyres are going to be dirty now. Steggink on the inside. He's up the inside. I mean, what did you reckon of that? 6 in one, half a dozen of the other?
Yeah, a bit of a late move, but it looks like it just didn't have, gives his carrying momentum, maybe a bit of understeer. But as you say, I think both of them were kind of having their own little mini incident, and they ended up colliding together. April Dillon, meanwhile, is desperately trying to hold on to the lead here. We've seen that Craig Patterson, we saw great pace from him in the first race. Didn't quite come for him in terms of results, but now it looks like he can smell this win and he's desperate to get it.
This will be very exciting indeed for Craig Patterson and the Priority One Motorsports team. Let's not forget, of course, that in the first race, Craig Patterson finished down in 8th position, and now he is challenging for the race lead, and now is taking the race lead. So great move there from Craig Patterson, fantastic momentum onto the back straight, and now the Swede April Dillon is now into 2nd position as Patterson and the Priority One Motorsport team leads the way here on lap 10.
Yeah, but his teammates not far there behind 4th, still trying to get past Linkovic, so we could be on for a double podium here. April Dillon's not giving up the fight though. It might have been easily out-dragged into losing that lead, but still staying with Patterson through this final corner, so maybe showing the different strengths in their cars and the setups. Meanwhile, Samuani still in 5th position on the back of Patterson's teammate Mike Bell there. He can spot a podium. It's really, you can't really call it. Austin Ogonowski as well there is in the mix, and maybe even Tom Bellingham.
Here comes Bell down the inside of Linkovic into the first corner. There's contact there. Linkovic wasn't quite aware that Bell was there. Hopefully there's not going to be any damage on Linkovic's car. Bell and Linkovic then run side by side with one another. Through into the left hand and we go. And through into that position as Harani's a bit wide on the outside there. That's going to give him dirt on his tyres, and it's going to allow Austin Ogonowski an opportunity to find his way through. Still on the outside there then here, and somehow Harani, the British driver, manages to hold on ahead of the Canadian. I don't quite know how he managed to do that, and despite his efforts at doing his best to throw that position away, he was able to hold on for it. Look at these drivers though, 4 of them line astern down this back straight. Here comes Ogonowski versus the defender's car of Sam Harani, and in the forefront of his shot you can see Linkovic versus Bell there as well. Up the inside, nearly there for Linkovic, but not quite able to find his way through as Ogonowski has in turn gotten ahead of Harani at the end of that back straight.
Yeah, I thought Linkovic had there, but obviously carrying a bit too much speed and had to slow down in the corner, couldn't get quite past. Harani there just seeing any way somehow it can get past the gaggle of cars in front of him. He really, really wants to get in front of all of them, and I think if he did, he'd have the pace to pull away. He just can't manage. The circuit is so tight and twisty, and the quality of the driving in front of him is just that he just can't get past them.
Hugely impressive stuff indeed from Austin Ogonowski here in 2nd position, doing a great job. Arunis Linkovic, all of the drivers doing a good job. Here comes Harani down the inside. Not an opportunity really presenting itself there for Harani, but he made one work as well, and now he's through into 5th position. Ogonowski though, as we know, will not want to settle for 2nd best, or indeed 6th best on this occasion, and will want to find his way through. The yellow flag is out at the top of your screen, and that is why it's Franklin Stegging. Another incident there for the Dutchman, and he spins it coming back onto the circuit. This is a race to forget indeed. He's got to be really careful here about how he re-enters back into this race. Let's see what happened. It's Lee Harrison's the other offenders drivers here. There's going to be contact between the two, and it's a carbon copy of what we saw between Price Harper and Stegging earlier on in this race. So the 2 offenders drivers on the offensive in this one then.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, he must be sick of the sight of that livery. He's been spun in the same corner twice by the 2 different drivers. A lot of dust being kicked up there for this group of cars here, led by Alex Odell, of course, our early race leader, started from pole position there. But everyone is just so desperate not to give an inch to the competitors and try and find any slight advantage they can, always onto the brown stuff. But it seems that Alex Odell somehow is still maintaining this 8th position, despite the furious efforts of James Lambert and Van der Brink behind him.
James Price Harper there just in the background on the back of this 4-car battle that now suddenly becomes a 5-way battle. There is Price Harper. We saw him in the wars earlier on, and there is Austin Ogonowski, who's gone spinning down the order. So 6th position then becomes 7th, and he'll be lucky to not lose any more positions than that. But either way, he's lost a lot of time and now has, of course, lost touch with that group, and is now going to have a very, very lonely race by the looks of things in 7th position for Austin Ogonowski. He has got a bit of time on his side to try and make up some ground, so if the drivers in front continue to squabble for position, that might be a welcome blessing for the Canadian, but either way, it's not made his life very easy at all here.
No, not at all. Ogonowski, we were just praising his driving then before. It just goes to show the fine lines between genius and madness. We've seen so many drivers look like incredible racing gods one lap and then just chuck into scenery the next. It just goes to show how high the quality of racing is, and there's nothing to choose between drivers. And Van der Brink desperately trying to get by Lambert. Seems like he's finally got the momentum, and in the end breezes past, but of course he's going to have to watch out for Lambert. Going to send one down the inside. I think it's a bit too far behind. Golder tucks in nicely behind him. James Spice Harbour's trying to see if there's any way past any of these, but trying to take to the outside. He sees there's no way through, tucks back in and sees for another opportunity. Gold has a little speculative look there, and I think that might, because of the sequence of corners coming up to, might give James Spice Harbour another little look into regaining into the top, well, it won't be the top 10, but just sniffing on the edge there.
It was never going to work there for Bjorn Gouloumis, just locking up the rear brakes going into there, and somehow he managed to keep it facing in the right direction. There is James Lambert then for the Tropico Motorsports team in this little sandwich of cars all squabbling for position. There is Bryce Harper trying to find his way through against Bjorn Gouloumis, but he's just stuck behind him at the moment. You can see how much frustration he is suffering from, and I wonder if he is also suffering from a bit of damage owing to that earlier contact that he had with Franklin Stegging in this race. Sitting now outside the top 10, of course, is James Bryce Harper, as we look at the number 10 of Bjorn Gouloumis, who's all over the rear wing of James Lambert in turn. Coming into the long left-hander before the back straight. Could be an opportunity here for Gouloumis to find his way past. They're all locking up the brakes as they come into those corners. Bryce Harper was out well wide and a little bit squirrely coming through there. That's not going to help his drive onto this back straight. And indeed, you can see now it's actually Lambert versus Theo van der Brink as they come down. And Theo van der Brink loses out to James Lambert, the Tropico Motorsports driver, into P9.
Yeah, nice little there. James Lambert's been having a battle, quite a long battle with the Theo van der Brink. Managed to get past him there, but he's not going to give up the fight there, Van der Brink. And still there, we can see Bjorn Gouloumis just seeing if he can pick up any of these pieces. Quite a lot of see the brake disc there, Van der Brink glowing really brightly. I don't know if that's just the livery's car contrasting with the glowing brake disc, but it seems like he's really working those rear brakes really hard, and it seems like they're actually dropping James Spice Harper now, so maybe he's decided this is going to be it for his race. But still 7 laps to go. Anything can happen as Theo van der Brink locks up again, but manages to keep position. They're just trying so hard, aren't they, and just almost tripping each other up, really, just forcing each other into little mistakes and little lockups. And all this while, Alex Odell, you'd have thought maybe a few laps ago, oh, he's going to get past left, right and centre here, but doing a very good job keeping ahead of all these cars.
Yeah, very impressive stuff indeed for Alex Odell. And one wonders whether it'll be to his advantage. All these drivers have been squabbling behind. They'll be wearing out their tyres, burning up their fuel a little bit more, and maybe that's why Odell's got such an advantage, because he's got fresher tyres towards the end of this race. Here's Theo van der Brink versus Lambert. That position exchanges hands once again. The Dutchman into P9, now ahead of Lambert into P10. But as I said, Nick, it could come down to something like fuel and tyres, and that could be the reason why Odell is just a little bit more comfortable at this stage. He hasn't had to push as hard. Yeah, he's a very consistent driver, Alex Odell. We've seen him win races from before. That's why I tipped him maybe for a good result there, and it looked like he could have been on for one before that early incident. But all he has to do really is just keep calm and do his own race. He hasn't really got anyone swarming in his mirrors. Just keep the fuel levels where they are, keep the tyres in a nice stable temperature. Don't slide across them too much as he passes there. William Walking there, one of the lap back markers. About as much drama as he's had in the past few laps, really, just having to get past back marker. But now let's see if James Lambert can make a move there. Bjorn Gouloumis, very late on the brakes, and I think James Lambert, they were slightly distracted there by Walker, who decides to just abandon ship anyway, and Gouloumis has a little nudge there on James Lambert, but still cannot get past. Well, it's getting very exciting then in this midfield battle. I wonder how close it is actually up in front with Craig Patterson versus April Dillon. That battle still continuing on in this race. We'll hopefully get a better view of it a little bit later on. Here then is Bjorn Gouloumis as we ride on board with this squabble for position into the long left hand. A bit of a puff on the brakes there, as you can see once more. Closing up is Gouloumis on the brakes, but it's all about the exit of this corner. That's where you need to get the good drive, and that's where Bjorn Gouloumis is really struggling. Incredible acceleration there. Look how much that James Lambert is able to pull away. He's pulling out 4, 5, 6 car lengths going down that back straight. Yeah, and considering he had quite a compromise.
Oh,
when I say that, he spun it round. The commentator's curse is sadly alive and well. Lambert spins it round. All that hard work is undone, and that is a disaster there for the Tropico Motorsports driver, who's driven so strongly in this race, and it all comes to nil at this point.
Oh yeah, we just, as I said, fine line between genius and madness here. We're singing people's praises, and not even a lap later, in the same lap, just in this a corner later, we can see it all go to pot. And see James Lambert's now really struggling. Maybe been affected slightly by the off. Actually, maybe he's flat spotted the tyre. Seems like this car really not liking the right handers there. Ruinous Vincovacious there, still defending now from Sam Horani there. still trying to get past. It seems like they've lost the cars around them. Sam is going to want to get past them very soon.
Yeah, that's the thing, when you spin like James Lambert did, it's going to be rattling your fillings out for the rest of the race if you flat spotted a tyre. It's not going to be a pleasant experience at all. Meanwhile, here is Austin Ogonowski versus Tom Bellingham then. This is a battle that continues on in this race. They come down the back straight in towards the left-hander. No opportunity presenting itself for Ogonowski, who was fastest earlier on overall in this race, but no opportunity presenting itself here for the Canadian to find his way through against Tom Bellingham as they come through that long left-hander. This is the battle that continues for fourth position then between Bellingham and Ogonowski. And let's see whether Bellingham's defensive driving is going to be up to the task of the attack of Austin Ogonowski here.
Yeah, he's just got to make sure he's not too spooked. He's kept his tyres well. He's probably got good fuel conservation. All he has to do is make sure that he doesn't make a silly little move from a feint by Ogonowski. But then again, this is the first time we've seen a lot of dive bombs. Oh, and that's what I was saying about just don't get too rattled. Bellingham goes a bit too deep, but I think he can just rescue it here, although Ogonowski is going to be very close to him, and we've seen as well through this long double left here that we can have some good overtaking manoeuvres set up for the long straight.
You don't want to be looking at your brakes too much. You'll end up with tyres like a 50p piece. And look at the drive that Ogonowski has got on Bellingham then here. He's going to try and set it down the inside even before they get to that straight. Is they going to put him on the back foot as they come onto it now? Ogonowski is down the inside and through into fourth place, but Bellingham's going to be wise to that. And of course he is going to have the advantage now of the slipstream, which Ogonowski does not have. So pulls out then of the slipstream, but is he going to have the momentum to try and move it? He had to move very early indeed. Such was the close proximity between the two drivers. Bellingham's got the inside line, Ogonowski on the outside. Bellingham sends it down the inside. They run side by side. Ogonowski then has to go towards the outside there, loses drive, loses momentum, and crucially there on lap 18 loses fourth place.
Yeah, I thought Ogonowski had it there, because as Bellingham came out the slipstream, he seemed to struggle, but during the high end of the gear he seemed to find new momentum and managed just to get enough to send it down the inside and go through that corner and keep the favoured line, and has managed to retain it for a position. But with a few laps left to go, Austin Ogonowski is certainly going to give up now. Bellingham's got to keep his cool, make sure he doesn't brake too late into this first corner here. Oh, he actually has done it again, but because Ogonowski's committed to that outside line, it seems he's lived to fight another day. As they're coming out to Craig Woolard, Tom Bellingham flashes him to let him know, yep, the leader's coming through, so please don't get in the way. And we see Woolard very graciously move out of the way there.
Good stuff there from Craig Woolard. A little bit wide there for Bellingham as well. Is that going to allow Ogonowski just a bit of a sniff? He's going to be very aware that Bellingham is driving on the ragged edge. We've seen that over the course of this race here so far, and it's a great scrap that continues on. So part two, and now it's Ogonowski who's got the drive and got the momentum, and of course has got the slipstream as Bellingham punches that hole in the air for fourth position. But down the back straight, Bellingham's straight line speed advantage is too great. Meanwhile, here we go with Sam Hirani versus Arunas Linkevicius then. Pulls under the slipstream, does Hirani in seventh position, and that is soon to become sixth place now as the Defenders driver moves in to sixth position at the closing stages.
Yeah, he's finally got by him. Too late to go for any of the major positions, but he'll be very satisfied with that if he can actually keep ahead of it, because Arunas Linkevicius is definitely not going to give that up. Now Sam Hirani, as we said, driving on the ragged edge, just has to keep it on a straight and narrow to a very well deserved solid result. Craig Patterson there fighting with April Dillon. We've seen this before, they were competing for the lead, and now they're going to come back onto these back markers. This could really decide the fate of this race.
I mean, who's in front of him there? That's Rob Covey. Niall O'Connell looks like he's involved in the mix there. Campbell Wallace not too far up the road as well, as you can see him just in the foreground of the shot there. So Craig Patterson is really going to have to be keeping an eye on his mirrors, and he's going to want to try and flash these drivers in front to tell them, get out of my way, I'm coming through, you're being lapped in this one, and I've got a race lead to hold on to. We're on the closing stages. That's a bit wide there, unfortunately, for the number 85 of Matt Davis, who goes off the track, and it's not going to hold up these drivers too much as Rob Covey, the number 43, just moves out of the way there. Sensible driving for him. Oh, they're going to come right into the back then of the number 85 of Matt Davis, right when they do not want to, because they're going through that long, fast left-hander where they're carrying that momentum. And is it going to compromise Patterson here, because Dillon is now up the inside? They're both managing to maintain their positions and maintain that gap, crucially. That could have been a lot worse, and fortunately they both managed to get off pretty scot-free.
Yeah, it looked like at one point they're going to get bogged down by the back markers, but they eventually saw what was going on and took the long way round and managed to carry on their own race as much as possible whilst not interfering with the leaders. So it is as we were, with only 2 laps to go. The back markers so far haven't done anything really to interfere with the race, although it has paused this battle for 1 more lap. But now, apart from Campbell Wallace, it's going to be a straight fight to the finish.
Well, if you're April Dillon here, Nick, what are you thinking? What's going through your mind right now? You know you can attack, but when do you attack? What do you think? Oh, mind you, let's come back to that in a few moments as Bellingham makes a complete Horlicks of his braking at the first corner, loses track position then to Austin Ogonowski, and he's potentially set to lose even more time here. Then snatched a break, and here comes Sam Harani and Arunas Linkevicius, who are all over the rear wing, and now that has allowed Harani to get ahead of Linkevicius. Goodness me, this is going to be a very dramatic final couple of laps there for Bellingham. A simple mistake, snatching the brake at the first corner, has cost him 1 position. It could be set to cost him another 2 here. Yeah, perhaps guilty of looking in his mirrors a bit too much, missed his braking point, or maybe finally those tyres have given out. But Sam Harani looks like he's, oh, he said he looks like he's in position. Actually he is, because Bellingham looks all at sea. But we've seen that independent rules driver does have really good straight line speed, and it's going to have the slipstream here, and maybe Arunas Linkevicius can borrow both these slipstreams. And Bellingham's gone straight past, but can Linkevicius have a go now at Harani whilst he's concentrating on Tom Bellingham? Oh no, Linkevicius has to go off as Sam Harani makes it not too late a defence, but makes a slight little twitch there and spooks Linkevicius off into the grass. That's a shame there for Linkevicius. The Lithuanian driver has driven superbly over the course of this one, and a cruel twist of fate putting an end to that battle for position, sadly. Meanwhile, Tom Bellingham has still got a mirror full of the number 9 of Sam Harani, who's trying to find his way past onto the final lap. These boys come then here for race 2 of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres. What is going to happen though when the checkered flag falls in a lap's time? Down in towards that first corner we go. Again, late on the brakes there for Bellingham. I think his tyres have gone here, Nick, because he just really seems to be struggling to slow that car down. Yeah, it just seems he cannot get the car stopped in time for that apex, but it is the kind of corner where you can afford to stop on the apex, rob your rival of the momentum. He's just got to keep it nice and tidy through these corners, and if he can have a good exit, we've seen on a back straight he's got really good straight line speed, and he might be able to keep this position on the final lap. I really want to see what's going to happen. As I say that, here we are at the front. Craig Patterson looks like he's got a little bit of breathing room, April Dillon, but there's William Walker there in the head, so there might be a final sting in his tail. Let's see what's going to happen then here for Craig Patterson. I mean, what a race it has been for the Priority 1 motorsports driver. He has made his priority being at the front of this race, and he's now just got 2 corners from home. He's driven very well indeed. April Dillon has tried her best to put an attack on Craig Patterson, but it doesn't come to anything as Patterson comes over the timing line to take the win in race 2 of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres, then ahead of April Dillon in 2nd position for the defenders. A very well-deserved podium, and Patterson there looks delighted with that result, and very well-deserved as well. It's a Priority Motorsports double podium as well, with Mike Bell coming home in 3rd position. It's a drag to the line meanwhile between Harani and Bellingham, with Harani taking 5th place on the line ahead of the Independables driver then. So very well deserved indeed there for Harani. A great final lap, and you can see the donuts taking place here for Mike Bell and also Craig Patterson as well. A hugely well-deserved result for the Priority 1 Motorsports team, Nick. Yeah, I think you have to say all the podium drivers, any of them really would have deserved any of the spots, but Craig Patterson was just simply phenomenal that race. We saw him strong in race 1, just had a bit of a mistake and wasn't able to compete for the win. But there we go, only half a second ahead of April Dillon, and then another 9 seconds behind to Mike Bell. So it just goes to show what a class of their own these two were in. Austin Ogonowski somehow manages to get into 4th after tripping up a few times, but still a very well-deserved result. Sam Harani 5th after living on the ragged edge all event long. Tom Bellingham, another strong event. He had 4th in the first place and has managed to come into 6th now. Arunas Linkevicius, late mistake, relegates him 7th. Alex Odell, strong result there from 8th, and we see all the so up to 18th, almost to 18th was lap. So not quite as a slam dunk demolition of the field there, but we saw a lot of action throughout. Yeah, a few drivers will be hoping for redemption in round 2 of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres, but after round 1 it's a tie at the top between Craig Patterson and Austin Ogonowski of 25 points. Lee Harrison finishing in 3rd place in the standings after that one, just 1 point ahead of Mike Bell. April Dillon and Tom Bellingham tied on points ahead of James Price-Harper and Sam Harani. Slight gap then back to Arunas Linkevicius in 9th position ahead of Franklin Stegging, Alex Odell and Bjorn Golder. All three drivers tied for 10th position on 6 points each, and then comes Theo van der Brink. You can see the rest of the drivers failing to get onto the scoreboard after round one. Well, a very exciting round one it has been of the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres. That's the Drivers' Championship. What does it mean for the teams' standings, though? Well, Priority 1 Motorsport there, Nick. They sit at the top of the order.
Yeah, and it's no surprise, but obviously they had the double podium, and they fully deserve it. They could have been even further ahead with it, not for a few incidents in the first race. But the end teams, they're 37, 32 points. They won't be giving up the fight anytime soon. 10 race cars on there in 4th position. I think that's actually a one-car effort, so pretty good to sit in the 4th position of the team championship when you've only got one car, and the Independables there in position 5.
Absolutely right. Well, what a fantastic start to the Hyper Brazilian Tourismo Mestres we've had as part of Realish Racing. Don't forget to join us for round 2 very shortly indeed. From Nick Gouloumis and from myself, Tom Brooks, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and we'll see you next time.